Jeph Loeb and Tim Sale are one of the most legendary Batman creative teams ever. This is shown in the noir masterpiece that is The Long Halloween and also Dark Victory. But little did you know, to get the job of writing The Long Halloween, Loeb and Sale proved themselves with a set of 3 Batman Halloween specials. These 3 one-shots are collected in Batman Haunted Night. It doesn't seem like much at first, and most people will tell you that it's just some short little story that is additional to the other Loeb and Sale comics. In my opinion, that is not only incorrect, but also a disservice to one of the best Batman comics out there. Before we get to this underrated gem, I just want to say that Jeph Loeb and Tim Sale are probably my favourite Batman creative team ever. Frank Miller and David Mazzucchelli are also amazing, but when you read any Batman story from Tim Sale, you are immediately transported into a film noir, steam-soaked Gotham, where every single room has Venetian blinds, gargoyles hang from every gothic building, and Batman actually does some detective work. Seriously, that always bugged me. Batman is called the world's greatest detective, and up until I read these comics, I thought that was a lie because of the way the movies depict Batman. Jeph Loeb also did some good work on Hush, which despite what people say, I do think is a good mystery and representation of Batman. These guys also did the excellent must-read Daredevil Yellow. I'm always on the lookout for Batman comics with this noir gothic vibe, so if you know any, let me know in the comments below. So in 1993, we saw the debut of this creative team with the release of this Halloween special, and immediately became popular among fans. The main villain in the story is Scarecrow. How hasn't this Scarecrow been adapted on screen? He's literally cooler than every other villain. The story starts off with Scarecrow riding through a rain-drenched Gotham on a horse. Yeah, you don't get much more metal than that. And this first introduction of Batman is what you show somebody when they ask, what defines Batman? There's great use of monochrome here, and Sale actually does that a lot in these comics, putting certain scenes into almost black and white, emphasizing the fact that these stories are full-blown noir. Batman looks exactly the way he should, with the long ears and cape, the blue suit, and the white eyes that sometimes turn red, depicting Batman almost like a monster. Another thing that Jeph Loeb does well is having Batman speak the right amount. Batman can say something badass, but not for the reason of being cool or edgy, and instead for the reason of being a cold, determined symbol of justice. The art here as well is also spectacular. Gotham's skies are either filled with rain and lightning, or this dark purple that truly is a sight to behold. I love we got a movie or even an animated series with this world. Take notes, Matt Reeves. Gotham isn't just some bland, super dark city. These panels show massive shadows and incredible lighting. It's not just some dark mess. Anyways, in this issue we get introduced to Gillian Maxwell, a love interest for Bruce Wayne, and she's a properly done old school femme fatale in the story. We even get these black and white scenes where she is quoting the Humphrey Bogart noir to Have and Have Not. We also see Alfred conduct his own investigation and figure out that this woman isn't who she seems. See the way they can actually have Alfred be meaningful as a character and have him investigate by himself without having him become literal James Bond. We get this great scene where Alfred is trying to tell Bruce, and Bruce feels disrespected that Alfred would even do such a thing. Alfred even offers to resign, but deep down, Bruce knows that he's right. And that is the unique dynamic between Bruce and Alfred. He actually helps Bruce more than anyone else. After Alfred reveals this to him, Bruce knows that he could leap at the chance of happiness and live a normal life, but that isn't the life he chose, so he puts on the suit and goes to stop Scarecrow for good. And this one shot covers some of the most interesting aspects of Batman, one of them being that question of choice. This story ends with Bruce realizing that all this time it was his choice to become Batman. Gotham didn't choose him. Some of his heart's desires might go unfulfilled, but many more are satisfied, and in his words, it's a good choice. The last page shows us Bruce coming to this realization, and the painting of his parents above him, reminding us that the choice to protect the people of Gotham is indeed a good one. The next special from 1994 is called Madness, and it centers around the Mad Hatter. At first, I rolled my eyes expecting some goofy story, but it's probably the darkest one out of the 3. We get some more of Jim Gordon, who is awesome by the way, and his daughter Barbara. Notice how he calls her Babs here, and it's not insufferable, because he's a well-written character just trying to be a good father. In the first special, when Batman chased Crane through the Gotham Central Park, we were told that 2 kids had went missing there, and when the police found them, Batman stops speaking and says that the place should have been burned to the ground. So whatever whatever happened in that park must have been pretty bad. At the start of this story, Batman mentions that he's pursuing the Mad Hatter because children are going missing near the park, and it's tied back to him. The Mad Hatter is not only disturbing to us, the reader, especially when you take into account what I just mentioned, but he also strikes a nerve with Bruce. The Mad Hatter takes his persona from the book Alice in Wonderland, and in another beautiful monochrome flashback, we see that Bruce's mother used to read that book to him. So Mad Hatter is taking one of the only happy memories Bruce has and twisting it into something much darker. And the incentive to find this scumbag and punch him in the face is only heightened when the Mad Hatter kidnaps Jim Gordon's daughter. But Bruce falls down a literal rabbit hole of madness and despair to the point where he ends up bleeding out in Crime Alley with the vision of his dead mother being the last thing that he ever sees. But it turns out that his vision of his mother was actually Leslie Tompkins, and she nurses him back to life. He thanks her for everything and then leaves to bring the Mad Hatter to justice in this absolutely awesome page. Jim Gordon tracks the Mad Hatter to an abandoned building called Hill House where he worked one of his first cases. We get this haunting narration from Gordon telling us what happened in this house, and it reaches a level of darkness that the new movie couldn't even reach. Apparently years ago, two brothers kidnapped a child and asked for ransom in this house, and when they got the money, they got rid of the kid anyways. So Gordon tracked them down and made sure that the dirtbags got the electric chair. But that incident has left a stain on the house, and of course the only person to reside there would have to be the Mad Hatter. Batman arrives and decides to go in alone. The Hatter has Barbara being held hostage, but out of sheer determination, Jim Gordon smashes through a window to save his daughter. With the Mad Hatter backed into a corner, Batman delivers justice the only way he knows how. In Bruce's words, the madness ends through the looking glass, literally, because he delivers the hardest punch ever drawn, smashing the Hatter straight through a mirror. He then disappears into the night, returns home, and with the rain hitting his window just like it did when he was younger, he dusts off his copy of Alice in Wonderland. This is another perfect example of who Batman is, illustrating the tragedy of his parents' death and how it affects him every day. But that's one of the most tragic yet strongest parts of Batman's character. The fact that he didn't lose just one parent. Both of his parents died, and there's nothing he can do to bring them back except wage a one-man war on crime. Jim Gordon is also one of the best parts about these stories, and it's a shame we can't get the cigarette-smoking, gun-toting badass he is on screen for some reason. The last special from 1995 is called Ghost. It's probably the weakest out of the three, but it's definitely not bad. It plays out like a Christmas Carol kind of story, with Thomas Wayne returning as a ghost to warn Bruce about obsession. Through this issue, Bruce sees Poison Ivy, who warns him how his father's obsession with work in the past affected Bruce's childhood. He also meets Joker, who shows him that Wayne Manor is kind of becoming eerie and haunted because Bruce is more focused on being Batman. Joker brings up how similar the two of them are, and Bruce can't accept the fact that it might be true. This eventually leads up to the vision of his future, where he sees death and his own grave. This is a warning of what'll happen if he keeps up this obsession. So the story ends with Bruce and Lucius Fox agreeing to create the Wayne Foundation to leave behind a legacy for himself that isn't Batman. And instead of going out on Halloween night fighting crime, he stays inside and decorates Wayne Manor. A bit more lighthearted, sure, but it's definitely welcome after the two disturbing tales that we got before. So yeah, this comic is short and it's not as fleshed out as what would follow, but it does encapsulate Batman as a character, and it's extremely underrated. The element of horror that Jeph Loeb and Tim Sale bring is genius, and when you think about it, horror has always been part of Batman's DNA. Batman always aims to strike fear into the hearts of criminals with his Dracula-like image, and Gotham can be a gothic hellscape when it wants to be, but that horror highlights the heroism of Batman. The fact that no matter what, no matter how disturbing or unstoppable a villain is, he'll step in and bring them to justice, because that's the choice that he made to become Batman. So if you agreed, let me know, and if you didn't, go complain to your boyfriend.